Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Topical Talkology with Andy and Theo.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and I want to get us started fairly quickly. So today I'd like to talk about, because I was in a bar last night in central London, and I was having a drink with a few male friends of mine, and there was this lady who actually approached us, and we got, well, she was on the next table actually, and we got chatting, and she was talking about men and women being equal and things like this, and then I saw a couple of men looking at her because she was actually quite attractive. And here's the question: in this modern day age, should men respond to women, and vice versa actually? Because men at this stage aren't allowed to look at a woman without being labelled as a pervert, or being labelled as a predator, or being labelled as whatever. But the thing is it not a natural male instinct to want to be able to approach a young lady? And last night I did notice, and not so much from the group I was with, there was a reluctance to actually go and talk to someone, to want to get to know them, because it seems to be the only available way to actually get consent to actually speak to someone is by going on Tinder and doing a right swipe. What do you think, Theo?
Well, I think this is just a media smokescreen. I think in reality, people are far more sensible.
Are they? Because, I mean, when you've got things like the Me Too campaign, which is still going strong...
it's still nonsense, isn't it? It is complete nonsense. The more that people have dug into it, the more they've realised that it is complete nonsense. And people who have been involved in it are being... slowly having to quietly bow out, and people but essentially what's happened is, as always does, the pendulum swings one way, swings far too far, and then reason reasserts itself, and then the pendulum swings back again. And as we said many months ago now, I was pretty sure at the time that reason and common sense will reassert itself, because at the end of the day, women do want to be talked to, but they just don't want to be harassed. There's no excuse for harassment. There's no excuse for lack of respect. But
it also depends who wants to talk to them. So a guy who's not particularly attractive and he wants to punch above his weight by going to talking to a lady, if she doesn't like the look of him, for her, that would be harassment. However, if you put it onto the other side of the scale, if he's a good-looking, tall, dark, handsome, attractive guy, she would welcome that same approach.
You see, but that's the point. The visually challenged gentleman will have to work that much harder. And if he's unable...
Please don't tell me he has to have a sense of humour.
He may well do. And if he's unable to come up with the goods and entertain her enough or be interesting enough, sure, she's entitled to say no thank you. And again, most women, because it is most women, are perfectly capable of telling people that they don't want to be interacted with. Unfortunately, there are some women, for a variety of reasons, who are not able to. But then I would say that in a lot of those cases, it really is their responsibility to make things absolutely clear, because, as we said before, men are the hunters. Men will go and seek interaction, and women are the receptors. Women are programmed, they are hardwired to respond to male attention. So I've had clients of mine, and again, obviously we stress we're not giving medical advice as a licensed entity here, but I've had clients of mine come and tell me, I don't know why I slept with him. Some of the clients are even married, and they say he just wouldn't stop giving me attention, so eventually I said yes. I don't know why. And,
well, the thing is,
and so the trouble is, a lot of men work out that if you ask enough, a lot of women will say yes.
But isn't that what salesmen are taught? Don't take no for a first answer.
Correct.
All right, but going back to answering that, would that not be because the woman gets a level of significance, the serotonin levels rises? Is that associated with arousal?
Well, it is, but the thing to understand is that everything is tuned biologically for mating, and men are the hunters. It's why women cannot, and it is catastrophic for women to behave like men sexually. And indeed, when you do break the rules of the game, for instance, homosexuals. Now, if you have a man who is a hunter and you turn them on each other, then you have people sleeping with 10, 20, 30 partners a night. And that's how you get gonorrhea being rife, syphilis being rife, HIV. When you break the rules of the game, you have problems.
You mean the homosexual industry is a lot more promiscuous?
Because they're hunters. So if you put hunters in a room together hunting each other, then you get an enormous amount of sexual partners every night.
Well, won't one of them always be the prey anyway?
They hunt each other. This is the difficulty because they're all men.
Oh, right, okay.
And that's why I say if you break nature, you're going to have problems. Now, women are receptors. Women are Mother Nature. They choose. It's not clever for a woman to have sex with a man because all she has to do is not say no, or at the very least say yes. Whereas a man has to do the work. In most cases, obviously we're talking broad brushstrokes here. And therefore, it's very easy for a woman to say, I'm going to sleep with that man. Very few women, even ugly women, will have difficulty sleeping with a guy. Now,
they'll have difficulty sleeping with a guy.
They will not have any difficulty sleeping with a guy, even an ugly woman. Now,
sorry, you mean a less attractive woman? No, let's be a little bit kinder here.
Okay. Now, nature has designed it so that women, all they have to do is to look, to give eye contact to a guy, and that will raise their dopamine. And dopamine is your pleasure hormone. It's the hormone of addiction. And that's why, for instance, if you go into a newsagent and you happen to cast a furtive look at the top level of magazines, the ladies on the front covers appear to be looking out at you because that's designed to catch your eye, raise your dopamine, want to buy the magazine. Same, but that's just a facsimile of real life.
Sex is always sold, isn't it?
It is indeed, but this is a facsimile of real life. That's why a man feels bound to approach a lady if she gives him eye contact. And the sexes are different. For instance, research has shown that if a man shows interest in a lady at work, let's say, then the woman thinks that he's just being sociable. If a woman shows interest in a man at work, he thinks she's interested in him.
Do you know, so where does this fit into today's society? Because let's face it, the way things are being sold to us and the way they're being presented by the media, they're doing far more harm than good in terms of
enormous harm.
the natural hardwired tendencies of both man and a woman. So a woman's not allowed to be a woman anymore. She feels that she's now got to compete with a man to have the equality that is being presented to the marketplace. It doesn't mean they're more equal, because I've got to say, I found women far more powerful, not actually competing in a man's world, but by having that level of class and charisma and even feminine nature about her, is far more powerful and can be used far more effectively than any hard-pressed business suit on the top floor of the corporate ladder.
Well, you're right, and you just said feminine nature. Mother Nature, it's feminine. It is the ultimate choice maker, and that, of course, is the ultimate power.
Because we actually probably need to look at the animal kingdom, because we also almost need to go back to basics as to how they don't actually have the prefrontal cortex that's going to become the think tank of the future to actually tell them this is how we need to behave. They just behave naturally. And I think if you just look at any form of animal, particularly during the mating season and how they relate to each other, it teaches us that we are still actually mammals in the whole thing, and we are also animals.
Well, and there you go. And again, in the animal kingdom, it is the males who hunt the females, who seek the females, and the females choose.
And you know what? And if the female is not interested in that particular male, she's got no problem, particularly in the hoofed region of the animal kingdom, to actually give them good kicking, to actually say, actually, I'm not interested in you, or leave me alone, I'm not ready. And he will attempt, and she will kick him again until he's not going to put the effort in. Now, I get you can't do that in this world, right now.
Well, you kind of can, but obviously in a much more subtle way. But the big problem is that women think that they can behave like men sexually. So you get enormously promiscuous women who've slept with any number of partners when they're still in their mid-teens, and then they complain about not being able to find a proper boyfriend. And that is, the reason for that, of course, is that any gentleman who wants to have a proper relationship will stay away from promiscuous women.
Actually, so let me ask you this question, because this came up in a news feed last week for me about a woman who was addicted to sex, and she had to have sex 5 times a day.
That's different.
But sex addiction is still not recognised as a medical condition.
Well, again, the sex is one of the ultimate ways of raising your dopamine, and therefore, of course, it can be extremely addictive. And just like looking at online porn, which is addictive, then sex addiction, of course, is addictive, and it's been recognised for ages. Nymphomania is the female version of sex addiction, and the male version is satyriasis. And both male and female sex addicts exist, of course they do.
Okay, so here's the thing, but just because a woman, because the thing is, I've never liked the term calling woman a slut or whatever, it's a very dirty label. If they actually want to be a little bit free-willed with their behaviour, let's say, because they're entitled to do that if they want to, because let's face it, when you go
but they need to understand the consequences. If over promiscuity will affect the quality of the partner that you will get. Because, as I said, the good lads are going to stay away, usually.
The good what?
The good lads, the people who want a serious, long-term, solid relationship.
That's providing they know about the woman's past. And you know, if a man's going to go into a relationship with a woman, her past has got no bearing in your relationship right now. I mean, her behaviour will have a bearing on her behaviour.
Depends. It will affect how you met her.
He will measure how he judges her.
It will affect how you met her, and you'd be surprised how free and easy with knowledge of previous boyfriends ladies are currently with their partners.
Yeah, but what's wrong with a woman being able to sleep around with it as much as a man, without having the label of a slut put on her?
Because it's not how nature developed the species. Because it's, as I said to you, it takes work for a man to hunt a woman, but all it takes a woman to do is not say no. They are the receptors. They are the ultimate choosers. And if the chooser is not choosing, then they're not doing what they're designed to do. If nature didn't choose, then we would not have the development of species and evolution. Yeah, but we would have chaos.
You know, well, you could. You know, it's a very complicated one, because I mean, you've got things like group sex, coming out. I can't believe we come onto this subject. Actually, we seem to have diversified. We did, but you know, you're talking about things like group sex, for example. But the animal kingdom, you know, I've seen a bitch on heat. A dog. As in a bitch, as a dog on heat, and you've got all the other male dogs basically gang raping it, and I've seen that in a couple of countries. Not over here, because you don't have that many stray dogs. But having lived in a third world country for a couple of years, I saw it on more than one occasion.
Well, there you go. See, where you have unregulated local doggy society with lots of stray dogs, you get that kind of stuff.
Well, I suppose it probably happens in some parts of the world, even in the human capacity. But the thing is, look, here's what I wanted to say on that, because you talk about women and promiscuity. You know, if a woman gets married very early on.
By the way, it doesn't make them feel very good. So women,
because some women are becoming more comfortable with that.
Most women are not, because what will happen is they reach a point of existentialism, where most women, when they discover their sexuality, may well, of course, understandably want to explore it and enjoy it.
But why can't women just have sex because they enjoy it?
But at the end of the day, when they pass their enjoyment stage, then they will start asking, what is the point? Because at the end of the day, we are here to reproduce, not just have sex. Sex is enjoyable to encourage us to reproduce.
Because, you know, it's almost like having that doner kebab that night after a heavy drinking session and regretting it the following day that you actually had it in the first place. I don't know. I'm not. I'm
And
not
also,
sure.
that the difficulty is also that